This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
The opinions, thoughts, and observations on the IRS Solution Attorney radio show are not legal advice. Facts and circumstances differ in every case. Do not take anything said on the show as legal or accounting advice. Always consult your lawyer or accountant before deciding how to handle any legal issue.
Welcome to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. If you have problems with the IRS, don't focus on the negative, focus on the solutions. With the IRS Solution Attorney, Darrin T. Mish. For over 15 years, he's been helping taxpayers with IRS problems reclaim their lives and their financial stability. Now, here's your host of the IRS Solution Attorney Show, Darrin T. Mish.
Welcome to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. I'm your host, Darrin T. Mish.
And I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell. Welcome to the show. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. We have a great show lined up for you today.
We do. Some really interesting big government, big brother, 1984 stuff going on today with inside of our government. Not a conspiracy theorist or anything. This is actually real, Katrina. Scary.
Okay, so the first topic, the outline, I'm looking at this going, whoa, I never knew this. Like, this is brand new, signed into law? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so proof positive that...
like, when was this? When did this get signed?
Just in December, I believe, December of 2015. And this is actually proof positive that party politics don't really matter much anymore because both parties tend to vote for big government Orwellian sort of schemes. So what happened is President Obama signed a bill into law. It's a 5-year infrastructure.
Yeah, they all have time limits, right? They set something up, it's for a certain amount of time.
Okay, so basically what it is the IRS is now going to have the authority to revoke your passport if you have what they deem to be a seriously delinquent tax problem. Now, what fascinates me the most is that's a lawyer phrase, right?
So I was going to say, exactly what are they considering seriously delinquent?
$50,000. Now, to some people listening to the show, they're like, okay, 50 grand, that's a lot of money. How could you ever end up owing 50 grand to the government? And
if you've listened to the show, you know that $50,000 is a very small, minute amount compared to the tax issues you deal with.
Typically, I do have some $25,000 cases and things like that. But, when you're considering that in a lot of these cases, half of the $50,000 is interest and penalties. I mean, we're not talking about a very big tax problem in my world at all when you're talking about $50,000. So
yeah, because Darrin likes to deal with like the $5 million stuff.
Well,
just kidding.
I mean, I like a challenge like anybody else.
Just curious, what was the biggest tax bill that you've ever dealt with?
Oh,
you got to remember.
We
should
change that. We should save that for the IRS train wreck of the week. Let's do that because that's a doozy. I'm going to write that down.
See, now you have to stick around for the IRS train wreck of the week, and we usually do that close to the end of the hour, so roughly about 10 till. And those are always good stories. They're fun. Yeah, the outcome in that case is almost unbelievable. I can prove that it actually happened, but let's just say as a teaser, it was way over $1 million. Many, many multiples over $1 million. So okay, so let's just break this down for a minute for the layperson listening, because somebody like me thinking, of course, I don't have a tax problem, but if I did, I'm just thinking what that means if you have a revoked passport. So you've got plans you've made, let's say you visit family or whatever regularly in Costa Rica or
what's
wherever
interesting
you're
is
going.
we don't exactly know what it means. So if let's say you go down to Costa Rica, for those of us in Florida, it's not really that long of a trip, but a lot of people do it. I'm always shocked looking at social media how many people go out of the country for weekends, at least down here. And so you're out down in Costa Rica.
Some of the flights from Florida, Darrin, they're only like $100.
I know.
It's not hard enough to leave the country for the weekend.
No, I know. It just seems kind of exotic.
It does seem weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. So especially since we live in such an incredibly awesome place, except for in August. Not so awesome then. But so you're down in another country, and a lot of these countries you can clear customs and immigration in that country. Have you ever been to one of those airports like Aruba is like that, and
yes,
and Curacao and some of these countries down there, you actually clear customs down in the foreign country. I always thought that would be a pretty cool gig if you were the customs guy. I mean, you probably get paid more too to live in Aruba for 6 months at a time or something. But okay, I keep digressing. So,
but it's still fun. I mean, just
Yeah. So you're down in Costa Rica, and they run your U.S. passport, and it comes back as revoked. Now, what does that mean? Like, are you stuck? Are you going to come back?
If you have a tax problem, they probably want you to come back to the U.S., right? But I'm thinking maybe the guys with the guns, IRS guys, are going to be waiting in the U.S. for you. Maybe
I would think that it would be a logical assumption that they would want you back, so that you could pay back
snatch your
the
passport
debt.
out of your hand, kind of thing.
Perhaps when you land, they're going to revoke, the physical
This is
possession.
mine. Stick it in his
I'm
pocket.
not really sure. I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows at this point because the final regulations haven't been promulgated or whatnot.
But think about it. They want them here, right? I mean,
for sure. I think they clearly want them here. And there's another kind of interesting scenario, and that is that there's several states, Louisiana, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and New York, their driver's licenses have been certified by the Homeland Security, department, that their driver's licenses are not secure enough to use for air travel, so even domestically. And so now the citizens of these states are going to have to use their U.S. passport in order to get on an airplane to fly from, New York to Michigan or something.
What?
And what happens?
That doesn't even make sense. I just totally either I wasn't hearing you right or I don't understand what you just said.
And not everybody has a passport. Only people that travel have
I know, but
right,
I don't.
because it's expensive.
I don't understand that.
Especially for kids, it's a horrendously challenging proposition.
How would you be required to have a passport to go from Mississippi to Michigan?
Well, there's these 4 states that Louisiana, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and New York, that the TSA has deemed their driver's licenses that not to have the correct security.
Oh,
features.
so they did, like in Florida, we get the star.
Right.
Once
RFID.
we verified the, post 9/11, they know who we are.
And we have a barcode on the back of it, so they can swipe it and they can tell all your driving record.
So
and all that
why
stuff.
don't they do the same thing?
So in these states, I'm not sure why. Some of them are for political reasons because they want to be able to give a driver's license to undocumented individuals. I'm not sure because these states, only 2 of them are liberal and 2 of them are conservative, so I have no idea. But the driver's licenses are being basically decertified and no longer appropriate for domestic air travel. So the issue arises, and then, so these, like the frequent travelers in those states are going to have to use their passports, right?
That would be fun to watch.
Well, and I have traveled domestically on a passport, and it's funny because you get these odd looks from the people. Your ID gets checked like 5 times before you get on an airplane.
Yeah.
And you get funny looks and whatnot. So these people now are going to have to use their passports to travel domestically. And then we know statistically, 5 to 10% of them are going to have a tax problem and going to end up with their passports revoked. It's fascinating. We're not really clear. I think it's just another example, really, of lawmakers, hey, sounds like a good idea. Let's do it without considering all the ramifications.
I travel a lot, so something that I always think is if I lost my ID and I have my passport with me, at least I have another form of ID, And I was like...
Yeah, I have a briefcase right here in the studio with me, and I carry this briefcase. It has my computer and stuff like that, and I carry it with me every time I fly someplace. And my passport's actually in this bag for exactly the reason that you're saying, because the odds of my losing my wallet with my driver's license in it and my briefcase at the same time are relatively slim, right? So I have a passport in there. The other thing that's always been fascinating to me about passports is they have an expiration date on them, right?
Yeah, 10 years, I think, for adults and longer or shorter for kids.
Yeah, I think it's 5 years for
Yeah.
kids. But why is the thing no longer good if there's only 6 months left on it? That's always makes me scratch my head.
Yeah, that is weird.
It's like, okay, so there's an expiration date, and then there's like a secret expiration date.
Because you might accidentally get stuck and not be able to come back by 6 months
That
because your
only-
flight would be delayed so
You
long.
can always get the new passport chip.
Yeah, the
Did you see
RFID
that?
chip thing.
Someone didn't believe me, and I had to actually go get them a brochure, and it shows the guy racing through, one guy with all his bags, and the next picture is the guy racing through, waving his arm at the machine, and it's an RFID chip in your arm that has your passport in it.
What? I didn't know that.
Oh, in your arm.
In your arm.
No.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I think we're gonna.
You have a chip on your passport? I don't
think-
have a chip on mine.
I think we're gonna get you the special tinfoil hat there.
No,
Jeff.
no. Okay. I'll bring you the brochure
In a radio
too.
studio, that might not be a
No
good idea,
tinfoil
especially
hat.
if it's bad
You know,
weather.
Jeff never gets introduced on the show. Jeff is our loyal and trusty producer. He's what helps all of this actually happen, so that you can listen to.
And he breaks it up if we get too boring anyway.
Yeah, well, because he's not boring. He brings up stuff like implanted RFID
I'll bring
chips.
you the brochure. It's actually at the Dade City Courthouse right there as you walk in the passport. There's that one and that one. It's on the right side.
So there is a security concern revolving around RFID chips right now, and that is that
on the driver's license?
No, just in general, especially on the passports, is that there's concern that terrorists will be able to figure out how to identify somebody's nationality and then make a remote-controlled bomb that only goes off when that kind of person, person of that nationality walks by.
Oh, my goodness. With technology, anything is possible.
So yet another unintended consequence, I think. So the passport, getting back to the IRS revocation of passports, it's fascinating, and it's fascinating because I don't think anybody knows how it's going to work. I would doubt seriously that it's going to actually have much practical effect in increase in collections, because typically it might actually increase.
I mean, if you're a drug lord or something and you're going between the U.S. and Colombia and you're evading taxes or something, I could see where that might be beneficial. But like for the average person, I don't know what that's really going to do. You love the stuff I make up, but honestly,
yet another example of a criminal is going to follow a law so he can continue to engage in his criminal behavior.
But really, like he's likely got his own transportation, like private jet or something. He doesn't need your. He doesn't need your commercial airline.
So another issue that comes up, not to break up this laugh fest, but another issue that could come up is that American expatriates who live overseas, they already have lots of challenges where they have to declare their foreign bank accounts every year, which really isn't that big a deal if you're not trying to do anything,
not doing anything
shady.
Wrong, right?
It's really not that big a deal, but people don't know about it. So
$10,000.
See, I don't like it. It irritates me. Like I can't even move my own money around without Big Brother watching. Like that irritates me because I'm a law-abiding citizen that pays taxes, and
Well, as long as you file the FBAR form that says that you have the foreign bank account in Costa Rica, which apparently is where you hide your money.
I don't, but maybe I should. I don't know.
But now what the U.S. Treasury did is they basically bullied every country on Earth to have special reporting requirements for Americans.
They bullied every country?
They did. They literally did. Remember when we were kids that there was always movies about Swiss bank accounts, and all you needed was a special number.
Right.
Well, the Swiss have been a bastion of banking secrecy like since the beginning of time, practically, since the beginning of banks at least. And the U.S. government actually did bully the Swiss banks into not only changing their laws with regard to Americans, but also bullied them into disclosure of all Americans who had bank accounts there. I mean, this is a big deal.
I was going to say, isn't that it's theoretically really a violation of privacy anyway?
Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm. But the courts would most likely rule that you don't have. I don't know what they rule, but because we're entering into this realm of freedom is not really free, I guess.
Right.
Without trying to be too overtly political here.
When did that happen? I didn't even know that existed. Like
a few years ago.
It was post 9/11. Yeah. It was a knee-jerk reaction to terrorism and banking.
Isn't it always?
And stuff like that? Yeah. Well, when the Patriot Act passed post 9/11, I can remember very clearly in my mind seeing, okay, this is under the guise of preventing terrorists from moving money around and funding terrorist activities, but very soon it'll be used as a weapon for domestic law enforcement and yet another erosion of our privacies here in the United States. And there are people that would say, as in response to what I just said, that, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then what do you have to worry about? Well, okay, I agree, but what if you are the convenience store owner that has $15,000 in cash that wants to go deposit in the bank, and the government decides to seize it and make you try to prove where that cash came from? I mean, we end up in this situation where we have to continue to overtly prove that our behavior is innocent, as opposed to what the burden is supposed to be, which is
you're innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly.
I mean, think about a lot of those nationalities. Not to stereotype anyone, but the ones that own some of those stores and people that come from, a lot of Asian cultures and Indian cultures, they have a lot of cash like that. So it's not uncommon for them to do that or lend money back and forth to family members. So it just seems a bit unfair that they would,
for sure, there's different,
seize their money.
There's different cultures and ethnicities that don't trust banks. There's people there's regular Caucasian, WASP people here in the United States who are older or might have been raised by somebody who lived it through the Depression that remember soup lines and runs on banks and things like that don't like banks either.
Well, I mean, if you think about that, there was a lot of things that changed from that. And if people lived through that, it was for good reason because, FDIC insurance was created after that time because when the banks went under, they lost their money.
Exactly. But that's now why we have things like Too Big to Fail. When we come back, we're going to have some questions from listeners and maybe even a live call or two. And
don't forget, you can catch Darrin on Twitter at twitter.com/Darrin Mish. We'll be back in a few minutes. Isn't it Darrin _Mish?
It is Darrin _Mish.
See, I'm paying attention even though what we're looking at, our little bullet points are wrong. We'll be back in a minute.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Curious what your Tampa home is worth? Here's an easy way to find out what homes like yours are selling for in today's market. Text the word value to 813-377-2775 for a free report on Tampa house prices. We'll send you a free report with up-to-the-minute statistics based on all homes for sale sold in your neighborhood over the last 6 months in all price ranges. To get your free report on Tampa Bay house prices, just call or text the word value to 813-377-2775.
Are you suffering from IRS problems? Do you owe back taxes you can't pay? Is your paycheck or bank account being levied? Or maybe you haven't filed tax returns in years and simply don't know what to do. This is Darrin T. Mish to tell you that if you're tired of IRS problems hanging over your head and are ready for a fresh start, we may be able to help. Call the law offices of Darrin T. Mish at 888-GET-MISH, 888-GET-MISH. I can help you file old tax returns, work to release tax liens or stop wage levies, even negotiate deals to pay off back taxes at a discount, sometimes for pennies on the dollar. Hey, let's face it, these days it's not hard to get into tax trouble. A divorce, failed business, health problems, you name it. The point is, IRS problems may be solved if you're willing to take the first step. Call for a free consultation at 888-GET-MISH. That's 888-438-6474. Or go to the web at getirshelp.com, because the one sure thing is, IRS problems don't solve themselves. So get Mish. 888-438-6474. Principal Office, Tampa.
Ask me about an inside secret to save several hundreds of dollars on your annual homeowner's insurance premium. Text the word WIND, W-I-N-D, to 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. Hi, I'm Katrina Madewell, host of Tampa Home Talk. I'm going to give you market-appropriate, timely information regarding homeownership matters, because we want to make your everyday life better. Wherever you are in life, it's our mission to bring you good advice so you can maintain good credit, live within your means, and build wealth. My team and I are passionate about it. Love where you live, or I'll fix it. Tampa Home Talk on WTAN every Thursday and Saturday at 5 p.m.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Darrin T. Mish, the IRS Solution Attorney.
And I'm your co-host, making it fun, not the attorney, Katrina Madewell.
Katrina Madewell, real estate agent extraordinaire. Real estate agent to the stars of Tampa Bay.
Well, since half your customers are real estate agents, and luckily I had never have been, I got to make it fun.
Yeah, you never have been. That's good, actually.
I
love my realtor, real estate agents, I guess is the proper term, right? Real estate agent clients.
Realtor, if they follow the National Code of Ethics.
That's how you say it? Realtor.
No, realtor. No, realtor.
Realtor. Okay. So I love my clients that are in the real estate business.
Capital R, circle the end.
They're really interesting people. They're salespeople, and so that they don't get the math part. They just don't get the organization part. So assuming they're willing to do what they need to do in terms of that, then they can be really easy to fix. So.
Well, a lot of times, some of these real estate agents are, part-time, second career, stay-at-home mom decides they want to be pro realtor and they just don't have any of those skills.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard it a lot. It's just like anything, though, when we decide to open our new business or a business, it's often because we're a good baker, so we open a bakery. We're a good cook, so we open a restaurant. We have to remember that a very significant, perhaps a majority of what goes on in a business is administrative in nature, not actually doing the thing.
Well, it's the organization and those logistics that are actually going to keep your business open and running.
Right, and profitable.
Because the stats that small businesses fail
within the first 5
couple years are pretty high.
Yeah, it's because not enough of that infrastructure is put into place. But Jeff, I think we have a caller. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Hello there, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Darrin. It's your client, John. I'm listening to the show. I thought I'd call in with a question I had for you.
Hey, John.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You're not a regular customer, are you, John? Because Darrin doesn't like repeat customers.
Now, hold on a second.
No,
I love repeat customers. It's just a little bit discouraging when you help somebody with a 6 or 7 figure tax problem and they come back a couple years later with the same thing. It's a tiny bit discouraging, but don't worry. I love repeat business.
And I'm just teasing you anyway.
Well, the only repeat business I'll give you, Darrin, is doing our taxes for our business and our personal taxes every year. So I'll give you that, but I promise I won't get in trouble again. I've been through this whole process has been numbing, and so I do definitely want to repeat it.
That's what you want to hear.
Thanks for the plug. By the way, we do tax returns both federally and for every state in the country. So if you're listening to this via podcast or some other means and you're in California, don't worry. I can help you with a California tax return as well.
And a lot of your people kind of get in that space because they haven't filed returns, right?
Oh, for sure. So if you need 6 or 7 years of returns done and you live in Nebraska, don't worry. We can hook you up. It's not
there
a big
you
deal.
go.
But sorry, John. I keep digressing this morning. What's up?
We're having fun.
Yeah, well, I'm used to it. Here's my question. Estimated tax payments. You're working on my case. I know I have to stay current. I'm worried about falling behind because I have to do that. I've showed that in the past. Is there any way that I could pay my estimated payments on a weekly basis instead of or a monthly? I would almost rather do it daily. I just don't want to fall behind, and that's my question.
I'm going to guess and say the IRS will probably take your money anytime. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You're absolutely right. Yeah. John, killer question. Let's break this up into easy math because I'm actually really good at easy math. Let's say your estimated tax obligation was $3,000 a quarter. Okay, so it's $1,000 a month. Even I can do that math at this point.
Thank goodness.
And I think I can do the math down to the week. That's about $250 a week, right?
Roughly.
I'd actually need a calculator at this point to divide 250 by 7, but you could literally make those estimated tax payments every day if you wanted to. You could theoretically do them multiple times a day. What I tell people to do... They
don't get confused by that? That wouldn't totally mess them up?
No, because it's all sort of like every tax year is very much analogous to a different credit card at the same bank. So, lots of people have more than one credit card at Bank of America or more than one at Wells Fargo, that kind of thing. So if you're going to go ahead and make an estimated tax payment, particularly if it's being done electronically, John, you could pay $35.71 a day. I'd round that to 36 bucks. You could pay $36 a day. Somebody actually did the math for me.
I did too. Yeah, see, great minds think alike. And I was going to say 36 too.
But when you have almost complete control of the mic, I can't be doing divided attention stuff here. So. So $36 a day, you could do it that way. But another kind of follow-up thought to that is our realtors that we were just talking about. Realtors.
There you go. You're trained already quick. I love it.
So the challenge with these guys and lots of people in similar kind of businesses where they're commission only is it's feast or famine, right? So you do a closing and maybe it's going to be a month before you do another closing. It could be 3 months. I mean, who knows, right? So what a typical person who's not thinking about the tax ramifications would do is they would bank that cash. Let's say your commission was $5,000. You'd bank the cash and you'd kind of slowly spend it on life's necessities over time, and there'd be nothing left, in air quotes, for taxes. So what I tell my clients in that situation, John, and I won't divulge what you do for a living, but what I tell my clients in that kind of situation is let's pay some reasonable amount of money some reasonable percentage right out of the closing proceeds. So let's dedicate 20, 25%, 28%, whichever bracket you might be in, right out of the closing proceeds. And then if your closing check was supposed to be for 5, now it's for 4, but at least you've already banked that estimated tax money. And it's really just a way to sort of try to stay on top of it so that you don't end up with a tax problem at the end of the year.
Well, that was actually a good question. I mean, I didn't know they would literally take money every day or every week. I would think it would jack them up. Well,
John only asks good questions, so.
It would be great if they took PayPal. Then I could just go right from my account and just hit a button, and it'd be therapeutic. I could go work out, I could read my Bible, then go pay my taxes for the day, then take my vitamins. I would love to do that.
Didn't Darrin teach you how to bill pay when you were in his office?
Yeah. Well, there is a way you could use PayPal, come to think of it. Because
there we go.
PayPal issues you a credit card, right? Or you can.
I think they're getting away from that or canceled it. Or
did they do away with the PayPal credit card?
It's a debit card.
Okay, it's a debit card, but it has it starts with a 4 or 5.
I thought they were getting rid of it, though. Is your card current, your debit card? Do you have one? Because I had one, but I thought they said they were 86ing it, getting rid of it.
I've never made enough.
I hope not. I live off that card.
Okay,
how come you don't just use your bill pay and set it up on prepaid bill pay where every 7 days automatically $35 comes out of your account?
Every day, $36.
No, not every week or whatever it is you feel comfortable with. With your bill pay, I use Wells Fargo, and I can pay my stuff weeks, months in advance without me even just hitting one button, and it's done. I know for the next 6 months these payments are going to be made. Wouldn't that be easier?
I don't know.
That's a good idea.
I don't even know how our country's broke when they get at least 25%, if not more, of some of the higher wage earners. It's really kind of sick when you think about it like that.
Well, let's go back to the PayPal. How do you pay by PayPal? You use your credit card or your debit card. I'm sorry, I keep calling it a credit card, but I mean a debit card. And you would go into the IRS online payment solutions, and you just make your estimated tax payments every day. If you want to do it on the gym while you're on your treadmill, you can do it. So there.
I'm on that. I am so going to do that, and because I'm not used to paying it, and it's a habit that I need to, just like working out. I have to get into this habit, and that's something that you've instilled into me while you're working on it. And hey, it just feels good to be paying that money. It just really feels great to be productive again. It's kind of corny to say that, but that's how I feel. And so I appreciate your help in what you're doing for us.
And Darrin, since we're on point, and he brought this up, when you have worked out a repayment agreement or repayment plan of some sort with the IRS, and I know you've talked about this before on the show, but what happens if you default on one of those payments or you make it late?
Well, if you don't stay current, then meaning make your estimated tax payments, and more importantly, even more than the estimated tax payments, is be current, meaning that you don't continue to accrue ongoing tax obligations. Okay, that was fancy talk, right? So let me give you an example. I have a doctor right now. He owes about $1 million. He earns really strongly. He's in an installment agreement right now for $15,000 a month. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? But he's cash flowing and it's fine. At the end of 2015, he owed the IRS $1,000 on his return, and all that is, that's like a rounding error on this guy's tax return. I mean, it's not a significant amount of money. When he filed the return, he paid that $1,000, and it defaulted the installment agreement. Why did it default the installment agreement? Well, technically, he had a new tax obligation. He paid it immediately, but the computer is still set to tripwire and trip up that installment agreement, and so every year we have to redo it. So that illustrates the point of your question, which is, do you have to stay current? Yeah, you have to stay current. You have to file your tax returns. You have to not owe, you can't really owe $1 on your next tax return. There's easy ways to fix that, but that's basically the rule in that case. And John, I wanted to tell you something, and that is, if you think you feel good now making estimated tax payments, you know how good you're going to feel when you do your tax return and you have a credit balance on that. You have a refund coming, even if you don't get your refund because you have a liability. It is so much better feeling to have a tax return where there is not $50,000. Even if we don't get it quite right and you don't get a refund, but you owe $800.
You write a check for $500, you get $500 back.
I was going to say, if you owe $800 as opposed to $50,000, I mean that's a very empowering feeling, and it's going to allow you to feel like you did something for your family to keep this from spiraling out of control.
You're
Agreed.
listening to the IRS Solution Attorney Show with Darrin Mish. I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell. We'll be back in a minute.
I needed money 'cause I had none. I fought the law.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Curious what your Tampa home is worth? Here's an easy way to find out what homes like yours are selling for in today's market. Text the word value to 813-377-2775 for a free report on Tampa house prices. We'll send you a free report with up-to-the-minute statistics based on all homes for sale sold in your neighborhood over the last 6 months in all price ranges. To get your free report on Tampa Bay house prices, just call or text the word value to 813-377-2775.
Are you suffering from IRS problems? Do you owe back taxes you can't pay? Is your paycheck or bank account being levied? Or maybe you haven't filed tax returns in years and simply don't know what to do. This is Darrin T. Mish to tell you that if you're tired of IRS problems hanging over your head and are ready for a fresh start, we may be able to help. Call the law offices of Darrin T. Mish at 888-GET-MISH, 888-GET-MISH. I can help you file old tax returns, work to release tax liens or stop wage levies, even negotiate deals to pay off back taxes at a discount, sometimes for pennies on the dollar. Hey, let's face it, these days it's not hard to get into tax trouble. A divorce, failed business, health problems, you name it. The point is, IRS problems may be solved if you're willing to take the first step. Call for a free consultation at 888-GET-MISH. That's 888-438-6474. Or go to the web at getirshelp.com, because the one sure thing is, IRS problems don't solve themselves. So get Mish. 888-438-6474. Principal Office, Tampa.
Ask me about an inside secret to save several hundreds of dollars on your annual homeowner's insurance premium. Text the word WIND, W-I-N-D, to 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. Hi, I'm Katrina Madewell, host of Tampa Home Talk. I'm going to give you market-appropriate, timely information regarding homeownership matters, because we want to make your everyday life better. Wherever you are in life, it's our mission to bring you good advice so you can maintain good credit, live within your means, and build wealth. My team and I are passionate about it. Love where you live, or I'll fix it. Tampa Home Talk on WTAN every Thursday and Saturday at 5 p.m.
Welcome back. You're listening to the IRS Solution Attorney Show, and I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell.
And I'm the IRS Solution Attorney, Darrin T. Mish. We're joined here also by our producer, Jeff.
Hello.
That's the one behind the scenes that always makes the magic happen, that never gets enough credit, just in case you ever listen to any talk radio.
He's got a voice for radio, for sure.
He does.
Don't you agree?
Thank you. I don't need accolades. I just like pushing
It's
buttons.
supposed to be a face for radio. It's like the old joke.
Yeah, I know.
But I was trying to be nice here.
Well, it was so kind.
So we had some questions come in that are actually pretty good questions. One's a little bit more of a comment, and one sort of almost ties into what you were just talking about with John.
Yeah, for sure.
And it says, there's no way I'll be able to pay my taxes for 2015 on time. Should they work on paying estimated tax payments for 2016 first before repaying that old tax debt that they owe? And that comes from Vince.
That's a great question, Vince. You know, right now as we're live, it's in January of 2016. You may be listening to this later in the year, or not even in this year via podcast. But this is a great time of year to go ahead and make that determination. 2015 is water under the bridge. It's over. So a lot of times we'll have people. In fact, I just had this real life situation come up where the person had made one, we're trying to get him squared away with an offer and compromise, which is where you make a deal to settle for less. And he had made one estimated tax payment during the course of the year and just couldn't get it together to make the rest. And so he and his wife were asking me, well, should we struggle to pay 15, or what are we going to do here? We have a finite amount of money, like almost all of us do. And so the answer is you have to get current. So what does current mean in this context? It means start paying estimated tax payments for 2016. 15's water under the bridge.
Moving forward.
We just need to move forward, onward, and upward. And we'll deal with 2015 however we're going to deal with everything else. So we'll deal with it with an installment agreement, which is a payment plan, or a hardship determination, or an offer and compromise, or a bankruptcy, or whatever it is. We'll just deal with 15. We'll just lump it on top. My average client has 6 or 7, tax years that they have balances on, and so what's another one? It's really not that big a deal. And I'm not being flippant when I say that. The key...
It's kind of like when that snowball starts rolling, it is what it is.
Yeah, this is all counterintuitive stuff, too. The key is to get and stay current. So if you have enough money to pay back taxes or current taxes, but not both, wait for it, counterintuitive moment, it's to get current with and stay current with your current taxes. You can't tackle what's done in many cases. Now, if we're talking you owed $5,000 for 15 and you had $5,000, I'm going to say, okay, you probably should just knock out 15 instead of worrying about 16. But once it gets to that point, that amount that you don't feel you can stroke a check to just take care of it, then you just have to focus on, making your estimated tax payments for this new year that we're entering into.
And, the next one's kind of like right on time. Marie had a question kind of comment. It was a little bit different, but I think it's very relevant. I think it's a great one to answer because we've never gotten this one, Darrin. But she says, I don't get why the IRS would just waive money owed to them. Why? What's in it for them? How can this country survive if people are getting out of paying their taxes?
Okay, so here's my
Excellent
smart aleck comment back, and that is, well, they wave our money around, wasting it on other stuff. So what's the difference? But no, that's just kind of my smart aleck in me. What happens is, and I would guess, and I don't know, that Marie might be a person who is a proponent and a supporter of big government, and that's great for Marie.
She might be a CPA or an accountant. You never know.
Might be. She might work for the IRS. She might have a spouse that works for the IRS, or or as a politician or something, and that's all fine. I'm not making value or judgments based on any of that. But what happens is it's pretty easy for self-employed people in this country to end up behind on their income taxes, and that's because those of us who have jobs and get paychecks, your FICA, that dude that shows up on your paycheck and he takes so much. That FICA guy, the Social Security is already being withheld.
The one, if you're our age, you might not ever see any of that money come back, but that's okay.
Well, I don't know. I'm getting older faster, so it seems like. So you never know.
Oh, maybe I'm younger than you. That's why.
Well, that is, in fact, true. Not that much. But anyway, gosh, this show is all about digression today.
I like to tease you. That's okay. We got to keep it fun. No one's going to sit here and just listen to boring attorney talk for
I'm not that boring, though.
I know, but I keep it fun. You got to admit.
Okay, so here's what happens is these folks that are self-employed, they're not having the FICA withheld, and so they have to pay something called self-employment tax. And the rate for self-employment tax is 15.3%. So even if you make almost zero profit, you're still going to pay 15.3%. In tax. And so it's really easy for people to end up pretty far in debt. So if you have, my typical client would be a self-employed person, let's say a realtor that didn't file because he was afraid for year one, and then the IRS didn't do anything about it, and then he doesn't file for year two, even though he has the best intentions. Before you know it, it's been 5 years, and we file and he owes $75,000, which would be kind of modest. Then there's probably no way that this realtor in my example is making, let's say he's making $75,000 a year. He's never going to be able to service that debt that he's driven up. And so what happens is, in my example here, that person has been out of the system, not filing and paying taxes for 5 years. Well, that is the reason that the offer in compromise actually exists. It exists not so much, Marie, to collect the money, because I'm probably going to get a smoking deal on that offer to get my realtor guy.
Or waive the money was really more of the comment.
Okay, I'm probably going to get the IRS to waive a ton of the money in the offer and compromise. The goal is not to get that $500 or that $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever we're going to settle for. The goal is more to get that taxpayer back into the system. Let's say in my example, my guy's 50 years old. Statistically, he's got 15 more years of filing and paying taxes. If he stays out of the system, they're gonna lose more money than if they let him back in the system. For some, at some point, it's kind of analogous to the fresh start that someone gets in a bankruptcy. It's just more administrative and more IRS, based. And by no means, I don't mean to ever give the impression here on the show or in real life that every person who comes to see me is going to get a smoking deal through an offer and compromise. It's very fact specific. It's very fact dependent.
But when you think about it, Darrin, her question / comment is very relevant, right? Because you might have someone that's interested, because, keep it fun, not all attorney boring, but we're listening to the show and they're like, well, I've never had a tax problem and I pay my taxes on time and I work for, corporate America and they have no problem taking my money out. So I don't have this issue where I owe the IRS money. So why should someone else get out of paying $50,000 in taxes, which is like one of the examples we use. So I can understand why someone would ask that question.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, because, I've been self-employed now for 20 years. And I don't even have that frame of reference anymore. I mean, think about what I do for a living. Is my job is to be a zealous advocate to reduce tax liabilities to zero whenever possible. I mean, that's I swore an oath when I was sworn in as a lawyer to be a zealous advocate for my client. So,
I mean, technically the IRS works for us.
Marie's perspective doesn't even resonate in my mind, or didn't until you just sort of restated it. I guess I do get that the guy slaving away, maybe making six figures for corporate America, and he wonders why he's paying $40,000 a year in taxes or more. I don't know. I don't have much of an answer for him, other than, the country can survive because there's enough people who are paying their taxes. And I do think it makes good business sense to have an offer and compromise program so that we can get these people back.
Exactly,
into the
because
system.
that's a snowball you're never going to catch up unless there's some incentive to do so. So it makes sense.
I've told the story here before on the air, and that is I once had a gentleman walk into my office, and he had not filed a tax return since 1960. And so I actually got real excited, had a big smile on my face.
And he's not that old, so this is probably relatively 2000-something that you're dealing with this.
Yeah, and in 1960s before I was born.
Okay.
And so
Let's just clarify that.
I was very excited because I knew I could solve the problem, but I also knew that this is a guy who'd been out of the system for a very long time. And back to John's point, when we got his situation settled and he was filing and paying taxes again, that particular gentleman was so proud of himself. He was so happy to be back in the system and out of the shadow economy. I mean, he always wanted to do the right thing, but the fear of not knowing how to handle it, paralyzed him and put him in a situation where he didn't know what to do.
I imagine people are probably guilty. They're a little bit frozen. They're a little bit overwhelmed in where to start. So it would make sense.
I had a gentleman come in yesterday who actually runs a tax preparation company. And
wow.
Make sure to take my time.
That's scary.
And his anxiety level was quite high. Because
it's kind of like being a financial advisor and just file bankruptcy.
Bankruptcy.
That's really what you just said.
I might represent a number of financial
Darren's
advisors as well.
Shut up already. Shut up already, Katrina.
No, you're right. I mean, he is running a tax preparation business, and didn't know exactly how to handle the business tax aspect of things, and didn't exactly know how to set up everything so that payroll taxes were being withheld correctly for staff and things like that. And he certainly couldn't go to anybody that worked for him for solutions. And so he came into us, and I helped him identify the anxiety. It was one of the things that was stopping him from moving forward, and we're going to get it banged out. He's going to be fine.
It's probably embarrassing for somebody like that too, because they're like, oh, how could I get in this mess? I do this for a living.
For sure. I'm sure it is embarrassing, but I really appreciate and respect the trust that he had in me to come to me and let me help him.
I love how you've dealt with a lot of people in all walks of life, literally from the layperson to pro star athletes.
One of the coolest things about my job is I absolutely try to learn something new about life from every single client. So the NFL guy that comes in, I ask him all kinds of questions about what it was like to play in the Super Bowl. This particular client played in 4 Super Bowls, won none, but played in 4. That's pretty cool.
Ugh, that hurts.
The NBA guy who, has played in the NBA and overseas. Try to ask him some questions about what his experiences were like. The Major League Baseball player who played for the Dodgers, or just happened to be my favorite, baseball team of all time because I grew up in Southern California. So try to learn from those guys. In lots of regular people, lots of lawyers, lots of realtors, lots of more than one tax preparation company, amazingly.
Do you find that they're a bit humble, kind of taking a step back when something like that happens?
Most people are, because it's a humbling experience to have to come to and then search for help.
Would make sense to me. Well, you're listening to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. We have to take another quick break. When we come back a minute, we're going to talk about a headline story that the IRS could actually start using private companies to collect debts. That should be fun. We'll be back in a minute.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Curious what your Tampa home is worth? Here's an easy way to find out what homes like yours are selling for in today's market. Text the word value to 813-377-2775 for a free report on Tampa house prices. We'll send you a free report with up-to-the-minute statistics based on all homes for sale sold in your neighborhood over the last 6 months in all price ranges. To get your free report on Tampa Bay house prices, just call or text the word value to 813-377-2775.
Are you suffering from IRS problems? Do you owe back taxes you can't pay? Is your paycheck or bank account being levied? Or maybe you haven't filed tax returns in years and simply don't know what to do. This is Darrin T. Mish to tell you that if you're tired of IRS problems hanging over your head and are ready for a fresh start, we may be able to help. Call the law offices of Darrin T. Mish at 888-GET-MISH, 888-GET-MISH. I can help you file old tax returns, work to release tax liens or stop wage levies, even negotiate deals to pay off back taxes at a discount, sometimes for pennies on the dollar. Hey, let's face it, these days it's not hard to get into tax trouble. A divorce, failed business, health problems, you name it. The point is, IRS problems may be solved if you're willing to take the first step. Call for a free consultation at 888-GET-MISH. That's 888-438-6474. Or go to the web at getirshelp.com, because the one sure thing is, IRS problems don't solve themselves. So get Mish. 888-438-6474. Principal Office, Tampa.
Ask me about an inside secret to save several hundreds of dollars on your annual homeowner's insurance premium. Text the word WIND, W-I-N-D, to 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. Hi, I'm Katrina Madewell, host of Tampa Home Talk. I'm going to give you market-appropriate, timely information regarding homeownership matters, because we want to make your everyday life better. Wherever you are in life, it's our mission to bring you good advice so you can maintain good credit, live within your means, and build wealth. My team and I are passionate about it. Love where you live, or I'll fix it. Tampa Home Talk on WTAN every Thursday and Saturday at 5 p.m.
Welcome back. In our last segment here today, this is the IRS Solution Attorney Darrin T. Mish.
And I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell. We're going to make the last 5 minutes fun.
Yeah, in our last segment, we're going to talk about a headline story right now. And that is that once again, the IRS is going to start using private debt collectors to collect tax debt.
This has been an on and off thing for them, hasn't it, for years?
Man, let me tell you, the last time they tried this, it was an absolute disaster. The private debt collection companies have their own set of laws that they have to follow with regard to standards.
That's what I was thinking.
And they're not very good at keeping up with those.
Yeah, there's attorneys that just sue for that, people that break the collection laws.
And it looks like they're going to try this again. And so private debt collectors may eventually soon be calling taxpayers for the resolution of their debts. Let's analyze this just briefly for a moment. These are people who haven't paid their taxes. The most feared and powerful federal agency in our government, the Internal Revenue Service, has been unable to collect the money from them. And what are the odds that, Joe from Brooklyn is going to get the money? I don't know.
I'm thinking slim to none.
In the past, what we would do as, tax resolution attorneys is as soon as the client came in and they're being pursued by private debt collectors, we had a couple tricks that we would use, and we would just force it back into the system. Because believe it or not, it was easier to deal with the IRS than it was to deal with the private debt collector Joe from Brooklyn. He just wanted to talk about broken bones and baseball bats and stuff. I'm exaggerating. This is a joke.
I don't know how
it wasn't quite that bad.
Really they would be, though. Like, it just seems like they'd be less successful with a regular collection agency that people would hang up on versus somebody from the Internal Revenue Service.
And I'm usually a small to no government kind of guy. But even I am questioning the efficiency of this situation, because the private collection agencies, I would suppose, are being paid some percentage of whatever they recover, and so the only way I would be in favor of such a thing is if that was actually more efficient than more IRS employees. And goodness knows that IRS employees historically, in my opinion, have not been terribly efficient. But I guess it just depends. I would not be in favor of a very high percentage being given to the private debt collectors, just because it would seem to encourage more bad behavior.
Did they find that they had to use debt collectors because they weren't efficient enough in collecting their own debt, being the terrible, evil people that IRS is? That doesn't make
like
sense.
what are they doing?
I
if
didn't
they're
say
not
that.
collecting
No, I
debt?
said that.
But historically, there's really good stats. I'll look them up that for a different show that where the IRS collects. I think it's around $40 for every dollar that they spend on their budget. So I think what's happening here is Congress and the IRS, the executive branch, really in general, have been at odds now for several years, and so Congress has cut the IRS's budget to punish them for bad behavior and whatnot, and so that's now they're saying, okay, well, let's try this private sector thing and see how much
Doesn't
money
make
we
a lot
can
of
collect
sense to hire Vinny the leg breaker, to collect the money from the IRS who broke your leg last year, and everybody's coming to dinner for broken leg of lamb, and I don't understand. It doesn't make because they're paying them a percentage, so they're losing if they win, they win if they lose.
I think it's actually broken leg of sheep, but anyway.
Lamb, sheep.
But yeah, it remains to be seen as these things progress. We'll talk about it here on the show. I can't wait to get my first call from a private debt collector because that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to enjoy it quite a bit.
Be having fun playing with them. Well, you know what that means. It's time for the train wreck of the week.
Okay, so this is a really cool, train wreck today. You brought it up in the first segment of the show, and that was actually totally unplanned. I had a gentleman who called, it's been about a year ago now, and he shared with me that his father, who was an elderly gentleman in his 80s, actually had a tax bill for $22 million. So you know me by now. I hear the number 22 mil, and I'm like, yes. Let's hear some more details about this.
He was tanning in front of your eyes. You can see.
He's like, this is going to be fun. This is not another boring day in the office.
Right, because I don't handle, $22 million cases all the time. It is the biggest case I've ever handled in terms of just money owed. And when I heard the story, I knew I could help. What happened is the grandfather, the actual taxpayer in this case, that owed the $22 million, he loaned his grandson $50,000. Okay, so far so good. Grandson took the $50,000 and engaged in day trading. So day trading, for people who don't know, that's where you might buy 500 shares of Apple in the morning, and then you sell it in the afternoon, and you might make 1%, or I don't know. There's some spread.
It's like gambling in the
goal.
stock market.
Yeah, it's exactly. In fact, the way the tax returns are actually handled is almost identical to the way a gambling tax return would be handled. And so what had happened is, and grandson was doing all this in grandpa's Social Security number. Okay, not the best solution, but so what happened is grandpa didn't ever file tax returns because he figures he doesn't have to, because he doesn't really know that grandson is doing this in his Social Security number.
Plus, a lot of older people don't even file.
Right,
anymore.
because they're on Social Security or whatever. And so what happened is the IRS can prepare what's called a substitute for return. We call it an SFR if the taxpayer doesn't prepare a return. It happens all the time. The government went ahead and added up all those trades over those many years as all new money, which is, makes some sense. And they did not calculate what's called the basis. So if you spent $500 to buy stock and then you sold for $600, the basis would be the purchase price, the $500, and you would pay tax on the profit. So you'd pay tax on the $100, not $600.
Or the loss, right? It could be the other way.
Could be. So what happened is they added up all those trades as being fresh new money, and the tax bill was $22 million. So it was painstaking. It took us quite a long time, but in the end, we got them a $50,000 refund. So $22 million to $50,000 back in their pocket. Pretty darn good resolution.
What are you doing in the grandpa's name anyway? I don't get that.
Hey, stuff happens. That's just the way it is.
Well, you're listening to the IRS Solution Attorney Show with Darrin Mish, and I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell. Don't forget, you can find out a lot of this information and more at getirshelp.com. Again, hop on over to Darrin's site at getirshelp.com. That's it for now for this week. We're out.